Hi guys, welcome. I'm Carly from Carly's Creative Clay. We'll see you on the hour. I'm gonna start making a Sasquatch model. Okay, see you then. Hi guys, welcome. I'm Carly from Carly's Creative Clay. Usually at the start of my tutorials I show an item that's in my shop. Well, I've got my shop on holiday mode at the moment because I'm not going to the post office. So I thought I would show you how the project we've been working on for the last few weeks, how it was finished off. So it's been baked and varnished. So let's move this down and at the way of its prop. So I got a side camera here. Let's come in and show you some close-ups. So we have 13 little guys, because that is 6 either side and 1 on the steering oar. So we've got guy number 1 floating in the water.
Do you want me to hold the camera?
Guy number 2 is the one hanging upside down there, like that. Then number 3 is doing a decent bit of swimming. 4 round the back there, he's just floating up. 5 and 6, don't know if you can see the light in that. Yeah, 5 and 6, they're holding hands with each other. And 7 has a sword, if you can see with my finger there, going to try and attack the Kraken because, you know, Viking. 8 is this guy up in the tentacles. Then 9 is hanging off the edge there. 10 has an axe and is trying to hack at a tentacle. 11's up the top. 12 is stepping over, so you can see a leg there. And the 13th guy is pinned to the deck, because I was asked last week to make sure I show off all 13 people. Now, what I didn't do on stream is, can you see all the blobby water that is on the squid and at the base of everywhere where you can see something's touching the water area? What that is liquid Fimo that I smudged in a bit of silver and then smudged in some true blue, but didn't make sure that that was smudged in properly, so you still got a few lumps of blue in it. And then as an overall shot, you can see it's all tentacles, and the boat's all firmly in place, and we got the sails all looking good. So when I do finally get my shop back on, oh, and the last thing to show you is that's how the base turned out. So let's hand this over.
You need to hold this so I can
Yep.
switch cameras.
There we go.
Right.
Just doing a camera switch so we can get back to what we were talking about. When I do finally get that onto my Etsy shop, it will be on there. I think it'll be up around the £200 mark.
The hedgehog says it's a real worth of art.
Thank you.
The monkey spaz says smudge is my favourite phrase you use. Artie Hearty Life says they're so cute. It all really tells a story.
Thank you, everyone. I am very, very pleased with it. And yes, I love the word smudge. It's a technical word that is absolutely descriptive for what you're using it for, I find. I am very pleased with it. It is definitely one of, if not, is my favourite item that I've ever made so far. So, since we're staying with cryptozoology, and if you've never heard the term cryptozoology, it's the study of animals that are...
We've gone red.
We've gone red.
I don't know why.
Anyone there?
No, it's still red.
Yeep.
Oh, is it recovering? Give us a minute. Oh, this is not good, and I don't know why. It's locked to it's dropped to 0. It's starting to catch up again. Going yellow, going green.
Hello, we're back. Sorry we dropped that. This may happen a bit. YouTube and streaming services are being hammered because As you all know, the TV services aren't making any new content at the moment, so it's people like me that are hopefully going to keep you all entertained. So yes, cryptozoology, it's the study of animals that haven't been officially discovered. So
says, you're back. Evil Monkey's back.
thank you. Yeah, sorry.
While, but you are back.
So all your monsters, and there are animals that were extinct that are thought to still be in existence that count under the cryptozoology category, and then you've got stuff that is completely nothing in the fossil record about it, so what you would count as mythical. And technically I think aliens would count in the crypto category because they're non-human species uncategorized to science. So it's a fun area to get claying on because they're generally not around. You've got a lot of artistic license, so it's a really fun thing to do. So I thought I'd start with one of the bigger ones. I mean, obviously I started last time with the Kraken, which is quite a known one, but we have found giant squids, so no, they don't attack ships like that, but yes, they do exist. Here's one that's a lot more contentious. We're going for Sasquatch. So he's got lots and lots of names all over the planet. There are reports everywhere. So you've got Sasquatch, you've got Bigfoot, you've got Steamer, you've got Yeti, you've got Yowie, Old Man of the Forest, Wild Man, Woodwode, and that's without getting into various languages that aren't even English, which there is a lot of ones that I could not pronounce, if I'm honest. So yeah, all over the planet these human like animals have been reported, and what surprised me is they are reported in the UK as well, mainly in Scotland and in Wales, but there have been some. And the one that really surprised me in my research was there was one reported in my local area. I live in Surrey. There is a it's kind of a natural area called Box Hill. I'm very, very sceptical. It seems a bit built up to me.
Little Monkey Spaz suggests Sam Squanch.
Yeah. So, they're reported all over. And I thought I'd better do my research on this one if I'm going to try and make one. So the first point that I went for was, as always, Google Images, and found lots of models that people have made of them. Plus, I've obviously got a picture of the Patterson-Gimlin film. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's meant to be the clearest film footage of a Sasquatch in America. So this is my sheet that I'm going to be working off of. The middle one that's closest to, what's that side? The left on the screen? The right on the screen. That's the Patterson-Gimlin film footage. And if you know, I'm being very neutral.
The Monkey Spaz says, that was Jeffrey the drunk tramp. He fell in leaves and camo netting.
I'm being very neutral on whether I'm saying these things exist or not. And I'm doing this for a reason.
Little Monkey Spaz says, have you heard of the big cats in Dorset?
Yes, I have heard of the big cats, and they are a thing. And I can go into quickly why they are definitely a thing. Real quick explanation. The UK back in the 80s did not have any restrictions on dangerous animals. You can keep them, there was no register, do what you want with them. So you literally had people like turning up in public with their tiger. It was crazy. in the 80s they brought in the Dangerous Animal Act, and what that meant was that certain animals on that list, you had to prove that you had secure caging for it, that it was being kept welfare, and real stringent and expensive stuff in order to keep a dangerous animal as it should be. Well, what a lot of private keepers actually did when that came in was, before they had to register, they took their big cat and released it into the countryside, because that's the really sensible thing to do, isn't it? And obviously they couldn't be tracked because it was before they had to register. That's why they got rid of at that point. But there have actually been people who have come forward and come on record and said, yeah, I did release my big cat. And the UK, it's fine enough habitat. There are, not only are there sheep and cows and goats and all the farm animals, but we've got a whole lot of deer and rabbit and small wild game. I think we've got some wild hogs knocking around as well. So
of domestic cat sighting too, I mean, but I'm not sure what that means.
There have been some misidentifications of domestic cats where, like a black house cat, they thought it was a big cat further away when it was a house cat closer to them. Distance and perspective can be a complicated thing to get right. It just is. But there are also probably a couple of big cats knocking around out in the countryside. So yeah, Sasquatch, there have been some very hard to explain footprints, and we're not just talking flat boards, we're talking dermal ridges and in positions where you would need climbing apparatus to get to it, and there's no climbing holes and stuff like that.
Even Monkey Spouse says Carly got it, probably with relation to her previous comment.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Shall I put the shot away?
Yeah, we can put the shot away. So, yeah. There are some cryptids we're going to do that I'll be far more comfortable saying this one's mythology. I would say, if I was to put a number to it, I'm a good 70%, no, 60 to 70, 65%, call it that, sure that the Bigfoots don't exist. But there's still a bit of me that's like, I don't know. It's possible. It'll be cool if they do exist. I can understand why they're not being announced so readily, because, you know, timber industry land and national parks tend to be where they frequent, and if they exist, they're not hurting humans. They're scaring a whole bunch of them, but they will be of a high enough intelligence that they don't seem to want to get into it with us. So, yeah. So anyway, I thought this would be a good way of doing a humanoid that's a bit different from a person. So the first thing we're going to need to get started on...
I think my comments are coming in rather delayed to what you're saying today. It's true, because of the hiccup, they might need to refresh.
Yeah, it's
a lot behind.
All quite laggy, and I understand it. YouTube and Twitch and all that are getting a lot more content added and users watching at the moment, so they are pushed.
If they did have a section where it lagged out, because we had that, then if they refresh, it will bring them more up to date.
Hubby and my techie guy says, if it is getting really laggy on your end, try and refresh the video, because it might make it behave itself a little more. So, first thing to do for this Sasquatch is to make a wire armature. This is a wire frame, because the clay is quite soft and gets a slightly softer at the point it changes to get harder, it can fall apart in the oven if you're not careful. So making a rigid wire frame that will help just keep everything stable is often the smarter way of doing it. So what you're looking for is florist wire. Now you can get florist wire in rolled up sort of coils or long straight sticks like this. I find using florist wire on reels is a lot harder because where it's naturally all curled round, you're then trying to straighten it all out before you can even start working with it, which is a faff. So I tend to go for packs of the sticks of florist wire, and you'll find that the thickness range it's quite a narrow lot that they offer online, but the higher the number, the thinner the wire. And the thickness I use is, I think it's around a 17 or 20-ish. I've got to look it up because I tend to buy a mixed lot, but they all seem to be pretty good if you go to the lower end. So I'm going to need 2 bits of wire for this. This is the basic human armature, and we're going to use that for this. First thing that I get is I use a acrylic rolling pin that I got. But anything that has a round firm shape to it, that's the circumference that you want the rough head size to be, if that makes sense, because we're going to curve round it to make the head. So we need to get a rough middle, and you can measure it, or you can just start to bend over and line it up like that. So we've got a rough middle now. But if you're unsure, just use a ruler and find the centre. We're going to put the centre onto the acrylic rod and just wrap it around and bring the wire up like so. I like to pull it taut a bit. There we go. So now, whoops, we got that little circle, and you want your circle to be smaller than the actual head that you want to end up with, if that makes sense, because you're going to add clay and foil to pad that out a bit. Right, I have a host of different pliers and wire cutters on hand. You won't need all this, it's just so that if I decide I need to change tools, I've got it to hand. Now I like to do a single twist to firm that up like that. Now because we're doing a Sasquatch, and if you saw in the pictures, they really don't seem to have a neck. That's not something that's reported. The reports that you're getting are that they're between 7 to 9 feet average, sometimes a bit bigger. They got very little to no neck. Their head very much sits on their stocky shoulders. They have a very pronounced brow ridge, a wide flat nose and a conical head. They're the most common reports, obviously, apart from human looking, covered in fur, bigger than a normal man. Not fat, it's all muscle. So if you want to put a neck on your armature, you twist this round a few more times to bring a neck out before you start going into the shoulders. But I'm not going to be doing that because that's not what I want on this. Okay, so now what I am going to do is once I've got that first twist in place, whoops, like that, I'm going to bring these sticks down. You can twist them together a little because what we're forming is that body. But I just do a very few like that. Now, you're working out, you can, the other way of measuring, let's see, I forgot to bring it down. That shows you about my preparation, doesn't it? I do have a wooden artist doll that you can get your sizings from, but I can use it off of this. So, we're going down to where the legs, where you want your legs to start. So I'm thinking it's got quite a long body, so probably around about there. Make sure there's a firm twist at that bottom. Then you're going to bring the wires out to start making those hips. Now it's got quite a wide hip to it, but narrower than the shoulders, so don't make it so wide that you've got to make a massive shoulder. So probably about there. We're going to start to bend it down. Same on the other side, and again you can get a ruler if you want to make sure that it's properly accurate. I try to make sure everything's flat. Once I've made the armature, I can then start to put it in its position, but you want to pose it before you start claying on it. So that's about right. Now we're coming down to the legs, so about there. We're gonna do a curve around something smaller to get the foot, so probably paintbrush handle, that's fine. So that's it round. Then we can flatten that out, bring the wire around, and we want the end of that wire to sit either inside of the loop, or if you can't actually finagle that, then down at the back by the heel. So I'm going to see if I can do it to tuck it in, and the reasoning behind that is then you'll end up with a little spike that can go into the base to help hold your figure firmly onto. Now that's too short. If you've got a bit longer, you can get it to go in. I'm going to tuck it around the back because I'm going to end up stabbing my thumb like that. That bends over, and this is where you're going to need your pliers just to get that to bend into a foot spike. See? Like so. And if your foot's a bit wide, which this is, you can use your pliers just to narrow it up a bit. Right. There we are. So. Yeah. See what I mean? Now, it's always harder doing the second leg because you've got to get them to actually be at the same height, or it looks weird. So that's about there. Oops, chucking my bits across like this, and whoop, up, going round your stick like that, bring it round the back. Then we can flatten this out. If you get wire that's too thick, you'll find you'll have a devil's own trouble just to get this all working correct. I'm going to come off the side. Actually, let's get a coaster and show you what I was about to do on the side of the desk. Check that it's level. Like that on the side of the desk. If it's standing wonky, then you know you've got your legs wrong. You can also get a yeah, thought so, that leg's a little short. And if you find you've done that, you can always just straighten it back out and reposition it. It's all good. That's why I like working with a medium thickness. You'll find your sweet spot between what you can actually manipulate properly and it being strong enough to hold your model. But I tend to go down for not the thickest option of florist wire, the one lower than that. So let's straighten you out a bit. And it doesn't really matter if this leg wire is that bent, because it's going to go inside a thick bit of clay. So you haven't got to worry so much about straight lines and perfection on your armature. I've seen people make an armature that is so good that you could use it as the model itself, and I'm like, that's beautiful, but why? Why so much work? Good enough is good enough. Come on, you tuck over. Now you really got to watch it when you're working with the ends of these wires, because they are very sharp and pointy, and I have done it before. I've dug the wire into my hand and it does leave quite a nice cut on you, so I wouldn't be recommending it. Right, I've never found that the second arm or second foot ever goes as smoothly as the first. It doesn't matter if you do left or right, they are still bleep harder. So you're not doing anything wrong, it's just normal. Can you see how I'm using the plier to tuck it over and under that spike? It's a fiddle, but you can do it. Whoop, come on, you. Then all we got to do is arms and then clean our hands properly before we start getting involved in clay. Oh yeah, and I've got to pad out the ribs and head with tin foil. The reason why we do this, when I first started looking at clay videos for armatures, I thought they were being cheap, that tin foil is cheaper than polymer clay, so they're padding it all out in the centre with that, and they're not. It's not that. That's not the reason at all. The reason is the centre of your clay is more, if it's a thick bit, it's more likely to actually stay soft, because the heat needs to get it to 110 if it's FIMO. If it doesn't hit that temperature, it stays soft. And tin foil packed up tightly is far better a centre than soft clay for keeping your piece from cracking and breaking in the future. So it's structurally more stable. Yay, getting there with this blooming spike. It is a fiddle to tuck it under, I warn you. Well, you can see. You don't need much of a spike. The one on the other foot I'm going to cut down a bit, I think.
Frantle says, good morning.
Good morning. I'm just making an armature for our Sasquatch. So, they look more level to me. Yeah, right. So there we are. I'm going to cut that spike down because the base is not going to be that thick. You don't want it going all the way through. Okay, let's get rid of that because you don't want to lose tiny sharp bits of metal. Right, so out of the one bit of wire we've done head, body and legs. So now we're going on to the arms. can you see that loop where I twisted the wire up? You're going to thread your next wire through that little loop there.
Rental says, the Sasquatch?
Yep.
Bigfoot.
Sasquatch, Bigfoot. Bring an overview up quickly. So this is the pictures that I've got off of line. So one of these. It's a American, well, predominantly American, but reported all over the world, cryptid, which is an animal that is not known to science. So I'm going to make these arms kind of long because I can trim them down once I get to the arm point, but it's better to have more wire than you need. So I'm going to go for about there and about there. So let's cut off all this extra here. Notice I'm leaving a bit sticking out because we're going to need to twist this on. Okay.
Says, I think I've seen one.
You do?
I believe that's supposed to be one.
Awesome. There are a lot of people who report them. And like I said, my jury is entirely out.
There's something called
Out of the many cryptids that I plan to do over the next several months, this is definitely one that I would not be confident in saying is completely myth.
Randall says here in Kentucky, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I think they've seen one in Kentucky.
Well, huge respect. It would scare the life out of me, the sizes they're reporting. So I've got the wire through just under the head because this one has no neck, and I'm going to secure that body firmly in my hands, and I'm going to put my thumb on one arm and twist the other wire so that it's going round the neck, and then do the same with the side that I didn't twist round. So it makes it look pretty chunky at this stage. So what I tend to do is I want that a bit tighter, so I hold one arm with one set of pliers, the other arm with the other, just give them a pull, and that tightens it up a bit.
Randall said, scared the heck out of my Rottweiler.
Not you, I would have been pretty freaked out. Although statistics seem to say that there's a whole lot of reports of them throwing stones but completely missing, and obviously missing on purpose. A lot of yelling and a lot of bluff charging, but no real massive injuries or deaths or anything like that. So they seem to be smart enough to be able to cohabit without causing us a lot of trouble. Although if you listen to a guy called,
very good at not being visible.
yeah, I mean, they're obviously masters of their environment. But yeah, so we got that far, but these arms look wobbly as all heck. That is fine. We are going to address that. I'm just going to come in and do these shoulders. So the shoulders, you need to picture how thick these legs are going to be. Bring that up to the shoulders and then come out and put in, and then picture how thick the arms are going to be. Halfway between those arms, that's where you want your shoulder. Does that make sense? So the legs, once they got clay on them, are going to come up like that. So we know that on this board, that leg is going to be like that. Yeah? So that outside line of your leg, bring it up, and then from that line, picture how thick your actual arms are going to be, and you bring the shoulder out halfway in between where your arm's going to be.
It looks like you might have added more.
I might have done a little bit more, but again, like I said, you can fiddle around with this wire and rechange it up.
I think that's what confused me. Because
There we go. That there.
That looks good.
Now, considering I do all this and I actually have almost no depth perception, I'm doing pretty well.
That's what you're doing.
So,
Amazingly well.
tip of my finger through to my knuckle. Easy way of measuring. Tip of my finger through to my knuckle. Or you can get a ruler. Right. Looks about right. The other option, if you really despise
For a hedgehog says you're doing amazing.
number memories, is you can get what are they called? Pair of these calipers, that's the word. And what you do is you set the gap to the measurement you want to measure, because these slide open and close. Once you set it, you can then tighten the screw and use that anywhere you want to replicate that distance. That's what they're for. I remember when I first saw a pair, I was like, what are these and what do they do? So yes, we got arms that are wobbly. That's fine. We're going to put in a foil ribs around here and that will hold that firm. It looks so weird doing a armature that's got no neck. But it's one of the most reported things is that these guys really do have a head that looks like it's plonked straight on its shoulders. So, who am I to judge? So, for the sake of everyone's hearing, I pre-tore up a few strips of tin foil. I didn't think you wanted to hear me literally ripping tin foil on stream. So, where's my masking tape at? Ah, yeah, there we go. Masking tape. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with the ribs. Now, I don't need to tell you this, but I'm going to anyway. The edges of your tin foil are proper sharp, and the paper cut you get from them is horrible. So you can make it slightly thicker, the strip you want, and then fold the ends in like this if you want to, or just be really careful that you don't accidentally run your finger up it because it really stings. I'm going to put the edge right close to that wire and we're going to wrap it round. And we're pushing it right up to that arm joint. Oops, folding over. There we go. Now, it looks a bit thin. That is fine because we're going to scrunch some and pad it round in a minute. But if you want it even, just take your time and keep wrapping it like this. But you can scrunch them up and push it in place like that. But I am not going to, I don't think. Actually, let's show you what I mean. Scrunch some into a thicker stick like that, and then wrap that round. But you just got to make sure that you get it kind of even.
How tight do you compress it?
And I try to compress it as tightly as you can with your fingers. That if it's
I'm not trying to grab the blade.
a very structurally if it's a bit that's going to take a lot of structural weight, like I did with the boat on the Kraken statue, then I start taking a hammer to it to make it even more compacted, because the more compacted it is, the more strong it is. But this is really, for the rib cage, it's just a space filler. And luckily, polymer clay is not like ceramic clay, where if there's a little air bubble, it's going to actively explode in the kiln. We don't kiln it, so we don't get up to those temperatures. So, and also the clay is a lot more flexible than ceramic clay, so it can move a bit with air expanding. and stuff like that. So you can get cracks from air bubbles, and certainly if you've got a big enough one or it's in a thin piece, it's going to make that area structurally unstable, because where you think you've got a centimetre of clay, you've actually got a millimetre, an air bubble and a millimetre. But as someone who used to work in ceramics, when you get an air bubble in that, it literally explodes. It takes out everything else in the kiln half the time. Yeah, so much not fun. So this, if you wanted to, you could slide this around. It's not so firmly packed in that you can't move it. What we're going to do to hold it in place is we're going to use masking tape. I just want to get a lot more width on it because they are a pretty barrel chested animal. Now don't forget, you're not making this the thickness of the finished piece. You're gonna add clay. So do leave yourself enough room for that. And I am starting to come down and build into the abdomen space. What's wrong with the camera? Admin is camera fiddling. Sorry, whilst we're doing this.
I'm just trying to make it so that it's actually showing your face rather than the wall behind you.
Right. Can you see I'm just building it down into almost like a teardrop shape. We are going to fill the head cavity as well. So if I run out of foil, then I'll just have to put you through the sound of me ripping foil. Soz. There we go. This is looking far more like it. Probably. Let's do another one.
The clay you need won't be so thick.
Because you want your clay really to stay at half a centimetre at its thickest if you can get away with it. I mean, there are going to be bits on some models that are a lot thicker than that, but yeah, it's about finding a balancing act between stability and achieving the end product that you want. I reckon that's pretty good. And if you can see, I've been building more up on the front than I have on the back. And that's on purpose. So once you've got it built up how you want, let's get some masking tape in. And this is the same armature you would use for any humanoid. And like I said before, we know the arms are too long. That is far better. I would suggest you always keep your arms too long on your armature. And the reason is, sometimes I don't use the end of the arms as hands. I will embed that into something that's in the scenery, like a tree, or on the case of my dragon, into the dragon's head, and then sculpt the wrist coming off of it. You can't see, but it's another anchor point. So the first bit of tape I'm using is to wrap around the body tightly where the foil is, but you will find this still slides up and down if you let it. And again, let's make sure all the foil's covered, because any foil sticking out like that, you can end up with a sharp point that will just dig through your clay and cause you a nightmare. Making sure it's masking tape covered means that you will not get any points sticking through into your clay. So I'd rather go a little heavier on the masking tape and make sure it's all sorted. Right, so the first bit, as you can see, covered that chest area, but it's still wobbly. So we've now got to secure it up over the shoulders with the tape. Right, so I start on the chest and I go up and over the back like that, and I tear it off. Fix that in, make sure it's all stuck down properly, and push it up under the armpits, because you don't want a big sort of flap of tape. And do the same on the other side. So make sure you're going under the head, because you can do that and then you've cut out all that definition. It's not so important because you are going to actually just use that as an anchoring point for your clay. It's not your finished head size, but I find it better just to try and get rid of these loops. So can you see under the armpit there's a big gap, and you can end up finding it hard to push clay into it. So just push it towards the body and it's all stuck down properly. Straighten up my shoulders a bit. There we go. Right, now it doesn't move. Okay, so that's the body, and you can see the chest is slightly barreled, the back is thinner. Now we need to fill that gap for the head, and again we're back to foil. This time we're going to scrunch a little ball like that and push that through that hole. If it don't fit, just scrunch it down a bit more. There we go, like that. And I want that ball to be further towards the back and almost flat with the wire at the front, because we're going to need to sculpt our eyes and things like that. We're going to need that space at the front for clay. So really try and get it flat. If you want there to be a bigger bulge at the back, although I'm quite satisfied with that, you can just add over the top like this and just scrunch it in. Like so. And again, it doesn't need to be perfect. This isn't going to be your finished head. Don't spend years on it. Good enough is good enough with a lot of these things. I have friends that are perfectionists with their art, and it takes them 10 years to do something, and the thing that they've spent all that time on then gets covered up with the finished product, and you're like, but why? I mean, I love you and it's been brilliant to see how much effort you put in, but hell. So this is sliding all over the place, which we know it will because we just literally slotted it on. Yeah, so we're going to hold it all in with tape. And again, we're looking at masking tape. If you use sellotape when it's in the oven, it doesn't like you for it. So you can't say I've run out of masking tape. Oh, well, I'll just get the sellotape out. You're going to have trouble. Even though it's on the inside, it will still melt and do funky things. So I'm just trying to make sure that I've got the definition in those shoulders. You can even use things like your paintbrush just to run it round. But you've got to make sure all your foil is covered. Now, the other thing I learned by annoyingly experiencing it, sometimes, especially with cheap masking tape, You will tape it all up, go to bed thinking that I'm going to finish this project tomorrow. You get up and all the tape's fallen off. Because it's designed to have very, very mild stick because it's masking tape. They don't want you ripping your whole skirting board paint off when you're trying to mask up. So if you're going to leave it any great length of time, what I suggest is you paint a coat of PVA glue over it, and then that will hold for till the end of time. You can make up 10-15 armatures and just stash them for when you need them. So I did take the chest off of this one so I could show you, but that's roughly your finished armature. And just for this, if you look on things like Etsy and eBay and you try and buy a wire armature like this, they are so expensive. Like, oh my god, that's a ridiculous amount of money. So if I really wanted to, I could go into the armature sales business, because you saw how easy that was. And again, we've got very little neck defined. That's on purpose. If you're making a human, those shoulders will be down there and you'd have more of a twist, and all your tape you'd be pinching in to the neck to keep that definition. Yeah, we all good? So armature sorted. So now you got to have a think about what position you're going to want your finished model, because you've got to get it in position in the wire and then build around it. Because if you try to position it after you put the clay on, when you try and pull, the wire will just start to come through the clay because it's too soft. Yeah, so I want a walking stance, so we're going to bend at the knees about halfway down. So bend the knee, bring the leg forward, so like that, and like this, and then this one bends. Oops, that's a little low. There we go.
Hello Lord 229 says, what do you think about Brexit?
It's complicated. It's personally, I think that I'm part of a planet and I quite like being part of Europe, but I know it's a hot topic and everyone's got their own opinions on it. So we've got a knee bend up like that. Let's straighten out that ankle. And if you find that you can't do it with your hands, you've always got pliers. So like this, that looks about right. The arm will, one arm swings forward, one arm's going to swing back.
Can we give him elbows?
Let's give him some elbows. That's a good idea. So
Hello Lord says, I agree too.
Like that.
Good.
I'm a Buddhist, so I think we're all the same species and we need to get on and love each other and be kind. It's hurting me at the moment hearing of some of the unkind things that are going on.
You mean
with
the virus?
With the thing that's going on. I'm not using the name or the V word because aren't they ghosting YouTube videos that talk about it at the moment?
Use the actual C name.
Oh, so I can use the word virus?
Yeah.
Okay. I know if you use the actual name of it, the YouTube are ghosting it because there's so much fake information out there at the moment. So I'd quite like this video not just to vanish. So once you fiddled around and got it into a position that you are happy with, elbow in. So let's have a look. One goes, that's why I got it bent the wrong way. I knew it looked weird. There we go, like that. Bring this arm down.
License, though. So if you
yeah,
want it
but
backwards elbowed,
backwards elbowed in something that is
Humanoid.
humanoid would look weird. I mean, I could get away with it when I'm doing something like Dogman
Or aliens.
or Aliens, but this is meant to be a humanoid. There we go, bit more of a step. Yeah?
Are you going to have both feet flat or one in the air? 'Cause
One in the air.
Ooh.
If I'm going to try and hook that to a tree or something like that,
You could
if
put
I
the
can, but if
points of
not,
the foot touching the floor maybe, so that it
what I might do
is just lifting it. sort of
is
thing.
I might get rid of this bottom spike on that foot. And all you need to do, instead of trying to trim it, just flatten it down. Like that. So it's then in the centre. Done. Fine. It's that easy. Don't make work for yourself. Right, that shoulder is not straight. I know it looks like I'm doing a lot of fiddling here, but it's better to get it right at this point than actually once you put the clay on it, it becomes a million times harder. So I'm making sure that the legs between, so the, what's that bit, the calf is straight and not gone weird, because you've got bones that are straight. So that goes down straight, that goes across almost straight. There we go. Right, I'd say that's good. Like that. Yeah?
That's good to me.
So we have officially done an armature. The other thing that's in favour of there possibly being Sasquatch getting found officially is there's fossil records. Gigantopithecus, a mammoth, huge humanoid that were definitely in the size ranges that are being reported. Oops, can't use this bit of cloth. That's what I varnished on. Not cloth, greaseproof paper. Words, Carly. Here we go. Bit of greaseproof paper. That's what we're going to use to sculpt it all on until we get a base. Right. Stage one of it all, I'm going to make up some pattern clay for the hair. So, what we got are a whole heap of brown colours. We have, that is ochre and white, brown and white, normal brown, no, that's the normal brown, that's brown and black. Then we got ochre, leaf green and brown, and the standard chocolate. Then we've got the, what's the dark red called, Bordeaux, and brown and any yellow you'll fancy mixing with it. Terracotta, brown with so much black it's almost black, and brown with white but a whole lot more white than the other one. Okay, there your mixes. And whatever you're doing with however many sticks you're going to do, they either need to be stacked into twos like that or threes like that. Okay, and we're going to twist them together. Make sure that they're pushed together nice and firmly so they don't come apart like that. I conditioned all this up 2 days ago, so it's going to be a bit more creaky than usual. So if it does break, that is absolutely fine. But what you want to do is get an even twist along the whole thing. And I find holding it still on one end and then spinning the other end helps. You've got to get all the way up to the tip. Because if you try and do it by twisting your wrists are going to hurt very quickly. So hold it flat and spin like that. Should have really done my clay conditioning today. You can feel when your clay's been sitting for a while. And the term conditioning just means mixing, keep kneading it and rolling it into sticks and bringing it back together. Try not to trap air. And it mixes in the plasticizer, which is the chemical that keeps the plastic soft, with the PVC, which is what polymer clay is made out of. So that's 2 sticks next to each other. Then the last few. But making this into a pattern block is certainly going to get it all pretty moving around. So it should soften up a fair bit. So because we're going to end up with 4, we're going to do 2 sticks together, because the rules remain no matter how many times we do the stack up and twist. Either stacks of 2 or stacks of 3. When you start to go higher than that to 4s, you will find that one of the colour sticks will remain untwisted in the centre and the rest will twist around it. So you'll end up with this big patch of solid colour. And it's a look, but it's not a uniform look. So, there we go. Now, I want them to be roughly the same length. So if I was doing it as a 3, I'd do, again, stack into a triangle, but we're doing 2 sticks together. And the only thing that has been a consideration on choosing which colours went together is I try to put the most contrasting ones together if I can. Anywhere it breaks, just push it back together, it's fine. And we're going to twist again. Like so. You seem to enjoy breaking that. If you've got a break, hold over the break, twist below the break, hold over the break, twist above the break. Like so. It's probably good that I'm finally showing you how to do this even when you've got crumbly clay. So, 1 stick twisted up. And the same for the second lot. Come on. If you see on all the other ones, I've had them properly conditioned and they go a lot smoother than this. But you will see, even when it's cracking and breaking up, you won't see any difference in the end result of the colour mix. So, twist it up, you will yield. There we go. Make sure the twist's all the way to the end. And then you're doing the same with the remaining clay. Twisting it all around each other. And you'll find that it gets shorter as you twist, because you're adding twice the thickness together, if that makes sense. If you have enough space like we do to fold in half and twist, then keep folding and twisting until you can't fold in half anymore, which I think for this block is going to be there. So that big pocket of air through the middle there, can you see? Push it on itself. You don't want that level of air trapped. So what I do is I go around and I do that, let all the trapped air in the middle escape, and then roll into a ball. It doesn't have to be a perfectly smooth ball, it just needs to be able to be worked with without falling apart, so you're consolidating the clay together. So how is everyone? Are you all staying safe and feeling well? It's all very scary times at the moment.
Very strange.
It is very strange times. But I'm hoping to keep doing this each Wednesday, and hopefully it'll give you something interesting to do. I did put in a clay order with my supplier the other day, so hopefully I should have enough for a while.
The monkey's pad says I'm having a bad fibro/CFS day.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I was asleep for a few hours before this.
Right, once you got into a rough ball, you've got to bring it out into a stick. I'm sorry you're feeling rough. Rest up and I hope you feel better soon. Right. So you can see if I tried to do that with it clumped together, you would have had bits tried to break off as you pulled it out into a stick. So it doesn't have to be perfectly smooth, your ball, just enough so that you can start bringing it out into a stick without it snapping all apart. Now, when you've got a thick bit of clay that doesn't want to come out into a stick so readily, trying to spread your hands apart is the long way of doing it. Hold one end and you're going to gently pull as you roll.
It's been pretty stressful these last couple of days, especially for my 11-year-old.
I'm really sorry. I know it's been really stressful for a lot of the kids, especially teenagers who want to be out and about and mixing with their mates and doing stuff.
In the monkey spell says, I'm resting, got you on my lap and sitting back, making a mixture of cookie cuts. Frantel says, yes thanks, Carly.
Cool. I have got the new Animal Crossing game. Oh my god, it's addictive. I thought New Leaf was bad. Right, out into a stick. We're not going too thin because we want to be able to manage it. And I'm holding one side and we're twisting along it like you did with the other sticks when you twisted them. But this one should go a lot smoother. See? Now, just using the liney clay can be really nice. I've made bookmarks like this where you just lay it flat and then roll it and you get this nice stripe. Make sure your twists go all the way to the end. Can you see? We've got lines, 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 lines. Oops, nothing where we were holding it. So up at the end, do give it a twist.
Frantel says, I hope you and yours stay well as also.
We started isolating very, very early on because not only do I have an immune system that is just the most friendly thing ever. I mean, most immune systems like to fight stuff off. Mine give them a shelf in the fridge and a cupboard and put them on the housework rotor. It really is, oh yay, come on. So I have to be careful. All viruses set my CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, which is what I suffer with, back quite a long way and leave me bedridden. I always get hit harder than most everyone else. So
autumnal colour stick, I love it now.
Yeah, it is, but this is how I do my hair. So I'll show you the different stages that you can use the clay pattern. Right, we've got a long stick and it's twisted. We're putting it in half, pushing it together, twisting it some more. And like I said before, where you twist and then fold in half until you can't do it anymore, you're doing the same thing again here.
Auntie says, you have such a way with words.
Thank you. I try. And probably over once more and squeeze the air out. You don't want massive air bubbles. Now, once I brought this into a rough ball shape, I'll show you this first pattern. Because I'm going to do 3 different stages to get it to where I want. You can stop at any of the 3 points and get different end product. So, what I will do is I'll show you the stop points of each 3 options, and then at the end I will say this is where you continue from your stop point, because there is a stage where all 3 of them are going to need doing it, so whichever design you decide on. So this one, cut in half. The design inside, it's quite blocky and large chunks, kind of camo print. So that's one of your pattern options. Obviously you've got the pattern on the outside as an option, but all the inside will not hold that same pattern. The 3 options that I'm giving you, the whole block throughout will hold the same patterns. Right, I'm going to bring it out into a stick again. Whoop. And once you've got your stick started again, hold one side and pull, and the stick will come out a lot quicker than if you try to roll on both sides. Yeah, so pull it out a bit, and then go to the other side, pull it out with the other side, with the other hand, like that. Yeah, and this is the same technique they use when they're working to make sticks of rock and sugar cane, this roll and pull thing to get them into their sticks. Twist again. Let's do it quick because you've all seen, and as you can see the twists are looking a lot tighter than that first round, so I call this a second stage twist, and it's all the same rules. Twist to the end, make sure the twists are looking kind of evenly spaced. So can you see we've got a really thick black line there? I'll just take that and twist it a little bit more, and then it's uniform. Yeah, all the way to the end, in half. You get really quick at this. It seems like I'm showing this every week. Do let me know if you get bored of me showing you all swirly clay. In half.
What would you do? Pre-mix it?
Make up the pattern clay before stream. If you guys get bored of me keep showing you this, but I'm trying to make it so that each of my videos you can log on and see the whole thing start to finish, especially if, well, either on that video or on its playlist. In half. Whoop. Let's get this into a rough ball.
It's relaxing.
I find it relaxing, and I love seeing what happens on the inside, because you can influence it, but you can't tell it exactly what it's going to look like. Like with most cane work, where you've made the image and you're uniformly shrinking it down, you know what the end product's going to look like roughly. With this, it's a complete surprise. It's like doing marbling on water with inks. So this one, you can see it's pretty tight. You can go one tighter than that. I think I might not actually. What do you reckon? Keep on with it.
Let me just adjust the focus. I think that looks good.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
You can go one tighter.
Can you put the armature next to it so we can get a scale for how big, how tight or untight it is? Yeah,
Yeah.
that looks good to me.
You can go one tighter than that, but I think I'm going to stay there. I think it might end up where you can't see the colours so well. So, once you've decided you're keeping it and you're happy with the pattern, you're going to form your ball into a cube just by pushing on the sides until it's cube shaped. It doesn't have to be perfectly cubed.
Little 67 says kind of like Makumigani.
Yeah, it really is. I like Makumigani for the different reason that you'll get to stab a block of clay with tools. So if you're having a frustrated day, that's a good one to do. Right, what I'm doing, I'm cutting all the outsides off. And you can see all the inside has that pattern and not the lines that were on the outside. But this is not all wasted clay. What we're going to do, get the ends, put them back with the line side facing inwards. Now, you don't have to match it all up perfectly. You can literally add it on anywhere. Even if it cracks up like that, absolutely fine. Won't mess up your design in the least. So let's put it on as scruffily and quickly as possible so it looks proper, not tidy. This is a demonstration in how imperfection can still end up perfection. See? Got gaps and cracks all over it. Let's go like that, right in the corner. See?
67 says,
big old mess. That will still roll into a perfect ball.
Little 67 says that that's the Frontal's Twitch account, and they like it, but the stream better here on Twitch. I don't blame them.
I don't blame you.
The quality might be better. I think it's more.
I think I've got preferences from people all over the place, but what we try to do is we stream on a service that then streams it to a lot of places. So I focus on Twitch and YouTube, but I think it's actually streamed on a load of other services. But they're unfortunately ones that don't get a lot of viewing public.
Hello Lord 229, when they asked their question, was on Mixer asking the question.
So I think we're on Mixer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am very grateful for all my viewers, and I'm really grateful for this platform that allows it to stream to all the different places. I want to be able to stream onto Facebook, but the mixing platform actually charges for that. I don't know if Facebook charges for it. I haven't looked into it, but since I make zero money out of any of this, I am not in a position to actually pay to stream. If I started ever getting to a point where I could get some money off of it all, then I probably, one of the first things I'd do is start streaming on Facebook. Put it straight into that. So we're just getting rid of all those join lines just by rolling it out. And I've heard a lot of people talk about different surfaces that you can work off with your clay. I don't think you can beat glass. You can run your blade across it and not scratch it. It's brilliant at taking out all your smudges without actually warping the design. Look at this. Get your zoom in right. Awesome. Thank you. See? So even when it was put on scruffy as all heck, it comes together perfect. And cracks are not going to matter because we're about to chop this baby right up. What we're going to need to first do is allocate clay for limbs, clay for head and clay for body, because the last thing you want to do is run out. Because the problem I have found, once you make a pattern ball, even when you use the same colours and you try to make some more clay to use on a project, it never looks exactly the same. I try to make too much out of any pattern that I use, because there's a million uses for leftover clay. Either you'll find something that needs that pattern, or just whack it in the middle of a thicker piece and then put your new pattern around the outside. As long as you're not cutting into it, you're not going to see it. Right, I reckon I'm going to need all that for limbs. Maybe even a little bit more. Let's take a little bit more off of it. And we'll see, wherever you're cutting through it, it's got that pattern all the way through. So put this to one side for limbs, because he's very, very chunky on the limbs. Not a huge amount of head, so not going to need massive amount for head. Probably maybe a little more just to be certain. If I need any more, I'll take it out of that limb pile. Right, I'm going to cut some slices off of this just so that I can start to wrap it around because we're going to do torso first. There we go. Get your blade, be safe with it, put it out to one side. So the aim is 2 slices will go around the front and the back of your torso, and you've got some extra to start putting in pectorals and back muscles and things like that. Although we're keeping this, look how thick we're keeping this. This is a good centimetre thick, so we will have the room to start sculpting muscles into all this. Yeah, can you see we're adding it straight in like this, and then we're going to bring that a little bit of it up over the shoulders. So whoop, let's see, you're a little bit long on that side. I'll have to, if you're finding the clay's a bit long, you can always just get it around the abdomen and then build the shoulders up with the next slice. So it's all down to what you want. Now we want a little bit of a thinner waist to chest muscles, so you don't want to make it a complete barrel, but make sure you're not trapping any air between the clay and the armature, so keep squeezing around like that. I'm going to bring this clay up and smudge it in like so. This is a good start off base. I'm going to bring it in under the legs just to stop it from sliding around where I don't want it to slide. Now I might move these arms just out of the way a little, just so I can get in there and give it a nice proper squeeze and start to really bring it into the shape that I want, because I want a lot more on the chest than around the waist. There we go. And by squeezing, I'm bringing clay up over the top of those shoulders, and it's getting that join line to start to vanish. So can you see we're starting to get a barrel chest to it? Yeah, the back I'm keeping quite flat, and I'm squeezing around the sides. And if I'm producing a lot of extra clay, I'm simply bringing it down to join with legs, because that can all be part of the clay for its bum. And you can also start to bring up, especially if you've got a neck, it's at this point I'd bring that clay up and join onto the neck. But I want this a lot thinner around there and then up a bit. There we go. That's more like the shape I want. That's a good start. Now, yeah, you got a choice at this point. You can either fiddle around, get that looking exactly how you want, or you can do some of the head covering. I advise, especially if you're only just starting, get the chest how you want, get it looking in the shape with all the detail that you want. You can bake it and then you can add new clay on for the head, because then you are not at risk of starting to sculpt the head, forgetting all the work you've done on the body, holding it too tight and smudging all that work away, because we are not about doing work that is not going to count towards the finished product. As much as I love this subject, I'm not going to do needless. Right, now, so what I'm going to focus on is getting this chest and stomach and back looking more like I want. So first off, quick drink of water. I got a whole heap of pots of tools. So, pot of tools. Whoop. Helps if there's not a wire over this one. There we go. Another pot of tools. And I've got about another 6 of my less used tools. These are my most used ones. What I found is on eBay, tools are pretty cheap. And you're not just looking for polymer clay tools. You're looking for wax working, soap working, dentistry, clay sculpting, sugar craft. Have a look through. Find tools that you think are right for you. And the ones that I advise the most, get something with a point on it. I prefer metal tools because plastic tools, you're more likely to break them. They're more likely to get scratched up. But you want something with a triangular head. You want your Ranger ball tools. And there's a set that's like 5 or 6 different sizes from tiny all the way up. You want...
Find tools that you think are right for you. Sounds like a bad dating service.
I know, right? But it's true. It depends. The people who make jewellery have a whole heap of different tools that are better for them than the ones who sculpt models. Right, I'm using my tool with a triangle shape just to start the pictorials. So, tiny little thin layer of V. Can you see that on the camera? Yeah. Can you see that little triangle I put in on the chest?
Yeah, sorry, it wasn't
Yeah?
focusing.
Then I'm going to start to bring the clay up. You can go around with your tool and just start to bring it round. But you don't want to go too pronounced because he'll look starved. We're just starting to get a rib cage in, that's all. And again, your first one is far easier to do than the opposite side because the opposite side you've got mirroring to bear in mind. So, I'm just going to squidge down the bit that I want shallower than the chest. There we go.
Says you are pinching his boobs.
I am. We are just going to build that up into a more pectoral shape by pinching and just shaping it a little. Now, you're not making it into a woman. You don't want to pull them right out. So it's better to have a picture. What I've done is I printed out those images and I've got a picture sat in front of me so I can actually see what I'm aiming at. So, bit more pinched like that. Flatten that down a bit. I will show you in a second where I'm at with this. Yep. Right. Okay, camera focusing. Can you see? Just barrel chested, but we've got a more of a chest to it now.
Pecs, I think.
Yeah, got pecs going on. And the front of them are quite flat. Now, I might actually want that front divide a little more clearer. It does seem to be.
Dweebs, manly dweebs.
Yeah, I haven't heard any reports of a scrawny Bigfoot. Normally they are so big they're going to terrify you. So I'm going to have to make it look right. Now, don't round them at the top. You're not looking for discs. It's just underneath, coming not directly up under the armpit. You're going to stop at waist height. So round the front, round the side, down to waist height. Think of your rib cage. It's easy to start to try and put in detail that shouldn't really be there. Now, on animals that are on all fours like that, the spine sticks up because gravity is pulling the skin down the back. Yeah? Does that make sense? For animals that walk upright, the flesh is being pulled in that direction. So what you get is a dent for the spine. So you're going to come in with a tool and just start to draw a line in the middle, down the back. Don't squash your pecs. So can you see I'm holding it down the sides? Yeah? Come in and push in that line. The deeper you go, again, the more it looks like the animal hasn't had enough food. So just widen it out the valley so it's more of a diagonal in rather than a straight down. And again, that makes it look a little bit more defined and a little bit more like it should. There we go. Right. Oops, sorry guys, that was loud. Okay, can you see? So you're looking for a V-shaped valley. It's going all the way up to the back of the neck. Well, the bottom of the head in this case, because no neck. Then we've got some muscles that are going to go in around the top of the arms, but we're not going to sculpt those in yet because we're going to add those with the arms. Okay, so what you have got is we can put in a few bumps of fat. So I'm going to take off some of my pattern clay, a couple of little small bits like so, and I'm going to switch it into a rough line, trying not to take the pattern out of it too much. So that'll do. Same for the other side. Right, what time are we now? How long have we been going? Going an hour and a half. I do a little bit more on this torso and then we will carry on. Let's see. So we're going to have scapulars put in that are built up. So I want a bit of a fat layer around tummy height. Around like that. Just so that it bunches in and goes to a point around there. I know that looks stuck on because it's stuck on. Give me a minute. We will smooth it and blend it all in. But we're just trying to mirror it so that it pinches up like so. Like that. And this is on the back. Remember, that's the front, and we're still taking care not to smudge the work we've already done. Pinch that off at the side. Right, now we're going to get a tool and we're going to smudge in all where it's joint and make that so that it's less of a horizontal. So it's more of a diagonal. See? And it doesn't take long to smudge all that in. Especially if you've got the right tool for it. And I'm not saying this specific tool I'm using is the right tool for it. I literally use anything that I can pick up to hand. I've used ball tools for it. They work brilliantly. I've used all sorts of different metal tools. I've even used a cocktail stick. The side of that does this, brings this down and makes it look fine. So even if you haven't got any tools, I find a cocktail stick is very useful. And I would put a blob of clay on the end of a cocktail stick, smudge it on and bake it, and then you've got your own ball tool and a needle tool because one side's pointed. Right. I know it looks odd at the moment without the scapulas in, but we will get scapulas in, and that will be another raised section. So let's push that into the shape that I want. Can you see the difference between the effort of smoothing in? So that side is the side I smoothed in. You can see there is, can you see there's a bump there? Just there? Yeah? Yep. The lighting isn't great. Whereas on that side, that is definitely just stuck on. That's better. Let's do that. That still shows you it's there. So it's worth smoothing it in. Then it just looks a bit like a fat roll, rather than you just literally added a lump of clay to the back of your monster. I think if I lived somewhere where I was having regular encounters with these creatures, I think I would have a problem with it. Even if I knew that generally they weren't going to hurt me, I think I'd have a size intimidation issue. I just would. And by the sounds of it, they're not so great at avoiding people's pets as they are at avoiding other humans. And that would be another, I can't deal with this. I mean, I am very sheltered. In the UK, the biggest predator we've generally got to worry about is a fox, which really isn't that big a deal. I still don't know how people in pretty much every other country, like Australia, they got some scary animals that want to murder all of them. So has America, so has India. UK, we're really lucky. We just seem to... We did have wolves. I think we are trying to reintroduce wolves back into somewhere in Scotland or Wales. But, yeah, no. Even them, I'd have issue with, because I don't think humans are as apex as we think we are. We are apex when we've got all our tools around us and when we're in our cities. But you start going into the forest with some of these proper apex predators and you find out pretty quickly how much you're not. And I'm quite fine with that experience in my life, to be honest. Right, now I'm going to move this clay around because you'll see this is the picture I'm following of the back. Whoop. Can you see on that there is that lump? That's what we're doing now, is these little fat folds. Let's bring it up to the camera. See? Yeah, but I can't point it out there. That bump there is what we're bringing in. So when we add the arms, they will have a circular end to them so we can slot them in, and that would do those big scapular muscles there. So, and again with the legs, that will do all the big muscles around the butt. So all you've got to really think about when you're doing the back is any flabby bits and muscular bits. Yeah? I'm just bringing that up, because the good thing about this clay is if you decided the angle's not right, you can just move it. Push it up. Push that bit down, push that bit up. Like that. There we go. that looks like it. It's not so obvious on camera. And again, you can come in with ball tools. Now, you won't find a ball tool that looks like that. It was a wooden handled ball tool that I used so much that I broke the thing. Split the wood. So I just covered it. So there we go. Right. Just getting it so that it's laying where I want. The depth of the ridges is how I want, and just fiddle around. There we are. Right, back. We've got flab layer. We've got a spine in place. Around the front we got the pectoral muscles. Now, the only other thing before I do my first bake on this, I'm going to put a bit of a six-pack going on at that front. Now, we're not going to see a lot because of the hair. Okay? So, what you're doing is just a very, very gentle hint of a line. Yeah? Now, let's see. Have any of these on this picture got it? Not by much. You really, really are very, very small hint of it. Yeah? So you do a line down the middle from the center of that ribs, and then you're just gonna start to portion off into 6. So you start doing a little curved line. They're all sort of, they're kind of hexagonals, but with very rounded shape to them. Does that make sense? I'll show you when I hold it up, but it won't be as clear because we're not making these very defined at all. I will at some point be doing a human mouth, and you'll see these a lot more clearly when I do that. But let's bring this out so I'll show you what I mean. Right. Let's see. Can you see on camera? Let's see now. It's hard to tell with the markings. This side I've got to get the light reflecting off it. Right, that would help. Is that helpful? You can barely see it. I know I'm looking at
divided.
So line there, line there, line there, line there, and it comes down there. Yeah? That kind of shows it off a little better. That's what you're trying to aim for on each side. You're going to need to put a belly button in. So either use a needle tool for that. In the middle, tiny little hole, give it a wiggle, belly button. Yeah? Because mammal.
Hedgehog said, will you be doing better?
The design of the clay will look like the fur. That's why I've gone for that swirly.
You're going to scrape fur stripes?
I might scrape some fur stripes into it, but I don't know. If I do, I'm going to need to do a whole lot more fiddling around and make these muscles all look clear. And then I'll literally be going over it with a needle tool and just scratching in some little lines like that. Yeah?
But not right now.
But that may end up off camera. It just gives a bit more texture, that's all.
Yeah. You can even see it taking the texture right now.
It's going to need a bit more fiddling around, and then I'm going to bake it, and we will come back, and the next stage will either be arms or legs. I'm going to do the head last because it gives me a good place to hold on to. So the trick with it all is you're going to do several bakes, because if that means you can put in your detail, and once it's baked it'll hold it and you can't smudge it back out of place. Yeah, so I hope this helps as a good first start. So we have got a lot more of a body going on there. I know it's not as clear to see, but it is definitely got it looking like pecs and all that. So that's your first point of it all. I will come back next week and we will do either legs or arms at that point. I hope you all have a really good week. If there's anything you want me to make in the future or need any help with, not just on my tutorial but with polymer clay in general, I'm always here. Just message me. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I have got an old Pinterest account, but I haven't used it in a bit, but I'm sure I'd see if messages come through. I hope you all have a great week. Stay safe and healthy. Find yourself some clay and get claying. Okay, I'll speak to you all next week then. Bye everyone.